All right, this quick little mini lecture here will be on Sylvia Plath's Barren Woman. Okay. Empty, I echo to the least footfall. Museum without statues, grand with pillars, porticos, rotundas. In my courtyard, a fountain leaps and sinks back into itself, nun hearted and blind to the world. Marble lilies exhale their pallor like scent. I imagine myself with a great public, mother of a white Nike and several bald-eyed Apollos. Instead, the dead injure me with attentions and nothing can happen. Blank-faced and mum is a nurse. Okay. All right. Well, cheerful as something Miss Plath is not. This is now one thing I think with this poem, Plath was a very extremely, I would say, ambitious poet. She really wanted to be, sort of known and famous in her time, and it didn't really happen for her, talented as she was. She got some recognition from her poetry, but not much. So at this point in her life, as she's writing this poem, she doesn't think she's that she's ever going to, and little would she know that 50, 60 years later, colleges across this country and maybe really around the world would be reading her poetry. But here's, and again, we pay attention to the title, right? Barren Woman. And she's using, the barren woman, obviously a biologically barren woman that can't have children, as a, the grand sort of metaphor here. And this is almost like everything is sort of this is almost like this weird trip inside her head or her body. Um, and maybe a la some of you saw Inside Out, probably the Pixar film, right? There's maybe just a little something like that might give you not totally, don't overdo it with that bit of an inexact analogy there, but empty, I echo to the least football. She is imagining herself as a literal museum, and again, echoes. And echoes, only happen. Echoes happen in hospitals, right? They happen in churches. They happen in very big and cold, and nothing where anything is warm or can absorb things. So empty, barren, and sort of cold is how she's imagining herself, right? And again, museum without statues. That's an interesting line. I mean, I think there are no awards for her poetry or for her writing, at this point in her life. And I do think she's sort of mourning, that, right? Grand with pillars, porticos, rotundas. She's got all the trappings of the great poet. She actually writes great poetry, right? But it just whatever reason hasn't happened for her yet. And then you get in my courtyard, a fountain leaps and sinks back into itself. And again, almost a sexual, a bit of a sexual image of fecundity, of fertility. There, right? Water. Again, or sexual. You can see it that way too. Sort of ejaculates up, and then it just comes right back down into itself. And so the only bit of life we get in this poem is this water, and again it squirts up and then just goes right back down and sinks down into the floor essentially. Nun-hearted and blind to the world. And again, what are nuns known for is the complete devotion to the deity, right, to their god, and that they are supposed to be celibates and never produce a baby, never have sex, much less produce a baby, right? So, nun-hearted, blind to the world, marble. Lilies exhale their pallor like scent. That is just a beautiful line. Hard almost to know what to do with it, but and again, marble. I don't know if you ever see marble flowers or marble anything with it, especially in a museum, right? Which are almost always rather well lit for obvious reasons, especially in an art museum. And the way the lighting hits marble. There's always that sort of moon-like, bit of a dull white glow, right? There's nothing fiery or anything about it. It's a very cool, dull white light that sort of reflects off marble. And again, they're flowers, but they're dead flowers. They're the statues of flowers. It's not the thing itself. It's the representation of the thing. Much like her poetry again, right? And they again, exhale, but again, exhaling their power like scent that's something. Instead of giving off scent, they just give off this cold light in place of it. I imagine myself with a great public, and again, that was her ambitions, right? It was to have be very much recognized for her art, and it just never happened for her in her lifetime, anyway. It did a little bit, by the way, but not the way I think she wanted. Mother of a white Nike and several bald-eyed Apollos. And again, white Nike, the Nike being the goddess, the god of victory. Apollo's goddess, rage and war. The Apollo is actually one of the more complicated gods, I think, in the Greek pantheon, and essentially that's. But anyway, mother, the gods, her creations, she wanted to be something legendary, and she doesn't think that's going to sort of happen as of right now. I don't think she's talking about her literal children in this poem. Instead, the dead injure me with intentions, and nothing can happen. Blank faced and mum's a nurse. And again, the dead injure me. That would be all the other, Emily Dickinson and everyone else who was, or most of the writers she would have been reading, who would have influenced her heavily. Sort of injure her with their recognized greatness. That something again she's longing for, and nothing is sort of happening. Again, you're just getting. I don't even know if loneliness is isolation. I guess, right? It's just wild, sort of the almost deafening silence of this isolation. And then blank faced and mum as a nurse. That is quite a closing line there, and again she's sort of empty and thinks it's been over for herself. All right. Anyway, that's Sylvia Plath's Barren Woman.